All right, so before we get in and start to create Microsoft Word forms, I want to give you a brief preview into what we're going to create. And this is going to kind of introduce you into what are Microsoft Word forms all about and how do you work with them. So open in front of you, I've got the completed version of the form that we're going to create together over the next couple of videos. It's called 19A Word Form Completed. And I'll put this inside of this lecture. You can download it. You can open it up and play around with it. Whatever you like to do with it. But it's just an example of what you're going to build. So I've placed a little bit of text in here. I've got this make-believe company party that we're all invited to. So I'm asking you, please take a quick moment, complete the form for the upcoming company party. Thank you. Now within here, I've got a table. And it's just a word table. We talked about tables in an earlier video. And I'm just using the table here to help me lay out the form itself. It's got two columns. First column is really just reserved for labels. And the second column is where the user is going to be entering their data or making selections based on the form controls that I've given them. Okay? And then the last little bit, just some more text here. After completing the form, please email a copy to the department's manager. Now, there's really a couple different phases of the form. The first phase, or really the first step, is all about you in creating the form. And that's what we're going to go through and do. We're going to create this form. We'll talk about having the table in there and adding the labels and adding the controls and so on. The second part of the form is you want to be able to send this out for people to fill out. Now, before you send it out through email or throw it up on the network drive or whatever you do with it, you're going to want to protect the form. And really what I want to protect here is I want to protect it so that people don't change stuff about the form, meaning they don't change stuff about this up above or the labels or any of that. All I want them to focus on and to do within this form is to fill out the form itself. Okay? So you create the form and then you send it out, but before you send it out, you protect it. Now, in the next section within this course, we're going to talk about Microsoft Word document protection. So we're going to break this across two sections. We'll talk about creating the form and interacting with the form here, but we'll talk about protecting the form before you send it out in the next section. Okay, so remember those two different phases are kind of two different steps there. Create it, then protect it, and send it out. All right, so here I got the form. This is final. I could jump right in, drop in my name, Kyle Pugh. I can come down here to the department. I got a nice little drop-down control where I can select a department, part of training. Let's do a large t-shirt. My meal preference, I'm going to go for chicken. Got a little check mark inside of here. Yes, I'm going to bring a guest. And I can leave some additional notes or comments if I'd like to. Thank you for setting this party up. It should be a blast. Okay? And I got a nice little form. Now I could save this on my computer and then I could attach it to an email, send it off. Like it tells me to send it to my department's manager. Do what I like to with it now. But I got a nice little form. And I can even take it further and format and do whatever I want with it. But where we're really going to focus at here is the creation of this section here. Adding the controls, drop-down menus, check boxes, radio buttons, whatever it might be. Adding those controls so the users can start to fill out your form. So get ready for it. Let's take a look at it. Now, before you can start to build the form and add all the controls, I'm going to introduce you to an additional tab within the Microsoft Word interface. It's not a tab that's currently active and it's not active by default inside of Word. So you're going to want to open this up and this is going to give you access to all the form controls. Things like text boxes, check boxes, radio buttons, and so on. This is called the Developer tab. Now, if you look up at the top of my screen, I've got my ribbon and I've got the standard tabs there: Home, Insert, Design, Layout, and so on. I've got Table Tools, Design, and Layout, which aren't typically standard tabs until you build a table and you click into that table. Then you get the Table Tools tab. But what I'm looking for here is the Developer tab. Now, within the Microsoft Office suite, and this is not just true of Word, but Excel, PowerPoint, and so on, there's a few different ways to be able to activate the developer tab. Here's one of them. So I'm going to right click. Doesn't matter where, I'm just going to right click on one of my tabs. Right click, and there's an option for customize ribbon. I'll give that a select. This opens up my Word options window. I'm on the customize ribbon tab. And now over on the right, I'm going to look for developer. You can see that it's not currently active and it's not active by default in any copy of Word. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that, developer. I'll hit OK. And now I've got a new tab at the top of my screen called developer. And it's got all sorts of goodies in here. Where we're going to start focusing on here as we build this form is within this controls section. But there's lots of stuff up here. You can get into code or macros in VBA. You can get into adding protection to a document and a few other things up here as well. But these next few videos, we're going to focus on developer and we're going to get into controls. So before you jump into the next video, make sure you activate that developer tab. Remember, just right click on any tab inside the ribbon, go to customize ribbon, find developer, turn it on, just check the box, hit OK, and you've now got the developer tab. So try that out for me first and then jump into the next video. Now that we've got the developer tab active, we can start building or designing the form itself. Now we're going to start out with more of the traditional stuff that you'd find inside of a form. Text inside there, layout within the form, and really just the general structure of the form itself. And then we'll take a look at the various controls that you can add to the form. So first off, and I'm going to make this really quick, your form's going to change and evolve based on what you're trying to do and the audience you're giving it to. Here, I've just got some simple text. So all I've done is just type in some text in here, company party. I made it bold so it stands out a little bit. I put a quick little blurb there. Hey, please take a quick moment, fill out the form. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then I've built a table. I'm anticipating that I'm going to have 2 columns worth of data here, okay, to be able to lay out this form. The first column is going to be our labels. That's really it, just labels. Full name, t-shirt size, comments, meal preference, are you bringing a guest? Just labels, that's it. So let me put a big L over there. There's our label section, okay, and that's all that is. This area here is going to be where the users of the form, those that we send this out to, are going to be filling it out. So again, the table is just there to help me structure and create a layout to this form. And all I've done, let me delete this out. All I've done is gone to my Insert tab, Table, created 2 columns, and I've got 6 rows because I'm going to have 6 things for them to fill out. And that's it. Got my nice little table there. I'll kind of change the width of this column. Just grab that divider line there. Give me my labels there on the left, my controls, or where the user is going to fill out their data, on the right. And then the last thing I got there is just a closing statement. Maybe I'll keep that in there. After completing the form, please email a copy off to your manager, yada, yada, yada. Whatever we want to include into the form structure and layout itself. So that's it. I've just designed my form. I'll save that. And now the next step is to start adding control fields and labels to this form. So before we do the fields themselves, the controls, let's go ahead and put in some labels here. So I'm going to have full name. We'll have, let's see, what else do we have inside there? We had full name, we had t-shirt size, we had department, right? Department. We had the meal preference. We had bringing a guest, question mark, and we'll have additional comments. All right, that's just my labels, and I can maybe start to fiddle around with the layout of this table. I can change the row heights or column widths, or whatever I need to do to bring a little more design and structure to this thing. And I'm going to grab all those labels there. I'll go up to my layout tab, and I'm just going to center align those just so it's nice and clean. You can change colors, you can do whatever you want. But designing the form, just getting the basic structure out there, the basic layout of the form, and that's it. So try this out. Make sure you download the example file. It comes with this video, 19wordform.docx. Download that. Drop in your labels. Get the form ready. And whatever else you want to do. If you want to add color or whatever, I encourage you to do whatever you want to spice this thing up. Okay? Talked all about tables and formatting those tables earlier, so try it out. Once you got that, jump to the next video. We'll talk about dropping in the controls themselves. All right, so we've got the initial structure and layout of the document set. Got your text in there, got your labels, got your table. We've got the developer tab open, getting us ready to start actually dropping controls into here. Let's do that. That's our next step. The first control that we're going to talk about here is perhaps one of the most common types of controls that you'll work with, whether it's in Word or even other applications, is a text box control. Now, inside of my form, I'm going to anticipate two text box controls. One for full name, just a text box they can type their name into, and one for the additional comments. I want them to be able to leave feedback, questions, comments, whatever they want to do. These are really simple to work with. So first step, place my cursor where I want to place the control. I'll go up to my developer tab. In the developer tab, I've got this section called controls. Now, before I start working with specific controls, I'm going to activate design mode. Now, this is an optional step, but it's one that will help you in manipulating and controlling the form itself as you design it. Okay? Just makes it easier for you to select the controls, delete the controls, change properties, manipulate them, and so on. You always want to turn it off when you're all done designing, but I'll activate it for right now. Design mode is on. Now, I'm going to go up to my controls section, and I've got two text box controls here. This one's called a rich text control, where they could do things like make stuff bold, italicize, and so on. And then you got plain text, which is just that plain text. I don't care about formatting, so all I'm going to do here is hit the plain text control, and it drops it in there for me. And that's it. I've got a text box control in there now. I'm going to go down to additional comments, and I'll do the same thing. I'm going to add a text box, plain text. There it is. Got my first two controls out here. And that's really it. It's that simple. Place the controls. Now, users, once we do a few more steps here, they'll be able to fill out things like their name and comments inside these text boxes. Let me just turn off design mode for a moment. Got my two areas. I can click or type here or tap here to type in text. Jump in there. My name is Kyle Pugh. That's it. And down below, here is some feedback. Yada, 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 yada. So on. So just a couple of text box controls, all from the developer tab. Make sure you activate design mode. And then you can drop in your plain text controls for both the first name or the full name and the additional comments section. So try this out. Then we'll take a look at a few more controls that you can use to get feedback and have users fill it out through your form. All right, let's take a look at the next type of control here. We're going to work with the t-shirt size, and we're going to create radio buttons. Those little circle buttons that you see, majority of the time they come in like collections of options for you to choose from, and you can really only pick one option when you see these little radio buttons, at least standard, the way that you're going to see these. So this one's a little bit more involved than the text box control, so you're going to see me go through a few steps here. So t-shirt size, I'm going to click there. I'm going to go back to developer, same place we saw earlier, back into the controls section. Let's make sure that design mode is active. All right, now cursor's there. Now I'm looking through my controls here and I don't see the little circle, the little radio control. But if I go down to this button right here, looks like a little toolbox. This is going to give me some more options, more controls. So I got legacy controls. These are older ones that are held around here for earlier documents. And then I got ActiveX controls. Anytime you see ActiveX, you're going to want to think of more kind of programming, behind the scenes, getting into VBA, in this case within Word. Now, but we're not going to touch that. Perhaps that's something we could talk about much, much later. But for right now, I'm just going to get the radio box or the radio control. This little guy right here looks like a little circle. They're calling it an option button. Option button, radio control, synonymous, but here option. So I'll give that a click. This drops in one of the controls for me. It's got some default settings. You can see option button 1. Well, I want to change that. I want it to say S for small, and then I'll have another one for medium and another one for large and extra large and so on and so on. So I want to change that. With the button selected, I'm going to go back to developer and I'm going to tap on properties. This opens up my properties window where I'm going to change 3 things. First, the name. I'll call this shirt size S for small. I'm going to find caption. I'm just going to put a capital S in there. That caption is what the user sees. The name is for the back end. Anytime you need to reference that control, and if you write any VBA for this, you'll reference it by its name. So the name, the size, and then group name. Eventually, I'm going to have small, medium, large, and extra large. And I want the users to only have the ability to pick one of those options. So I give it a group name, but as I create additional option buttons or radio buttons here, I'm going to give them all the same group name. That way they get grouped together and they behave together. So group name, I'm going to call it shirt size. Hit my enter key. All right, there's my first control. We can resize that. And now I need another one. So I'll go back to developer, back to the little toolbox, grab my radio button. All right, same story. So first I'll rename this. Shirt size, this is going to be M for medium. We'll give it a caption of M. Remember, that's what the user sees. And then what's the group name? How do you group these together? I'm going to call it shirt size. All right, and I can keep going here. Let's do one more. I'm going to encourage you to fill out whatever you like inside there. Oops, let's make sure we resize that. Get my mouse out of there. So once again, we'll do shirt size is going to be large. The caption, L. And the group, once again, so you tie them all together. We'll call it shirt size. All right, and I can resize that one as well. Do an extra large, do an extra small, do an XXL, whatever you want to do here. Add your radio buttons. But remember, get into the properties, change the name, whatever you want to call them. I've just been calling them shirt size and then appending the size next to it. Give it the caption, what the users will see, and then group them together. Give them all the same group name. Take a look. I'm going to turn off design mode for a moment. Got my radio buttons. So now if I select something, I should only be able to select one from that group. That's your option buttons or radio buttons. Again, developer, design mode's active. Get in the little toolbox and grab your radio buttons and then make the proper adjustments in the properties. So nail that one down. Get your shirt sizes in there and then we'll take a look at our next control. But get this done first. All right, the next control that we're going to take a look at here is the combo box control. I want to create a little drop-down menu where users can pick from a group of options, a selection of options. So I got department. I'm going to go to department. I'm going to go back up to developer, and I'm going to grab the combo box control. All right, now this looks a lot like the text box control that we dropped in earlier. It's just got the two little kind of tags on either end of it and choose an item. Okay. Text is different in there, which is nice. You can distinguish between the two, but very similar in look. Now, if I get out of design mode for a moment, you see it's here. Here it's quite a bit different. Now I got a little drop down where I'm eventually going to have some options for the users to pick from. Let's get back to design mode. Now, what do you think? Where are you going to go to change the attributes or to add options to this thing? Think back to the little radio buttons. How did we manipulate those? Well, make sure that your control is selected. Back to developer. Let's activate properties. So this opens up my content control properties window specific to the control that I'm in, this little combo box. Now there's all sorts of goodies in here. Well worth your time to poke around and see what's available to you. But what I'm going to look for is down at the bottom where you get your drop down list properties. Now they've got one in there already. That's default. Choose an item. Great. You know, I don't want it actually. I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to start adding my own values here. So I'm going to go to add. This is for department. We'll say my first department is IT. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to add another one. Let's do sales. Let's hit add. Let's do training. Oh, we got HR. We got accounting. And so on. We can continue to add whatever we need into here. I'll go ahead and hit OK. Let's go ahead and hop out of design mode again and take a look at my little drop down. Got all my different departments in there. Users can pick what they need to, all through this little drop down. Just another control within your Microsoft Word forms. Let's go back to design mode. Again, that was just place your cursor, developer, got my little combo box control up there. Right there, right there. So I want you to complete this one. Get department in there. Okay, get your handful of departments or whatever you want. But then turn around and do it for meal as well, for the meal preference. Create one that has a drop down where they could pick from whatever meal. Chicken, beef, salad, soup, veggie, whatever you want to put in there. Create another little drop down here, do it for meal preference as well, and get that department one as well. So try that out. Then we'll take a look at one last control here, but get that done first. All right, we got one last control that we want to put into this form here. I've got the bringing a guest label, and I want to put a little check mark over here. Just, yes, I'm bringing a guest, and they can check the box if they'd like to. We can even put two out there. We say yes or no. Okay? Just depending on how you want the user to interact with your form and how you want them to fill out the data. Here, I'm just going to do a single check mark. So I'll click into the area, back up to developer, just like before, design mode's active, and I'm going to grab the checkbox control. All right, there's my control inside there. Now, if I go into properties, there's really not a whole lot that we're going to do inside here. You can change a number of things, but once again, worth your time to poke around and see what's available. Something you can do is change the way the check mark looks. So it looks like there's a little X if it's checked and a blank box if it's not. If I go to the change button, you can pick different symbols. You can find one that's perhaps appropriate for you or format it the way you like. And again, preferences here, loads of options. I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm just going to, if it's checked, it's an X inside of it. I'll hit OK. And let's turn off design mode. Let's just see this. I can check it. I can uncheck it. And if we'd like to, let me put this back into design mode. Maybe to make it a little more relevant so users actually know what's going on inside here. I'm going to hit my arrow key here a couple times just to get outside that control. And I'm going to type in yes. And just giving it one additional label to make it a little more readable, a little more accessible for our audience. If I turn off design mode again, looks pretty nice. I can check it. Yes, I'm taking the guest. Uncheck it. No, we're not going to bring a guest. Or you can add another checkbox in there. One for yes, one for no. Or you can use radio buttons. You know, it's just another interface in there, but you're going to get the same thing done. So try this out. Get a check mark inside there, bring in a guest, or whatever you want to do, multiple check marks. Get a feel for working for these. Experiment a little bit. You can follow along with what I got, but what's the fun in that? Do a little more. So try this out. Get the form done. Got your checkbox.